Our first speaker and moderator is the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Professor of Biology at Ryerson University. Her name is Dr. Imogen Coe. She's also an affiliated scientist at the Lee Ka-shing College Institute and at the Keenan Research Center at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. She's an accomplished researcher, internationally recognized for her work with cell biology and biochemistry of the drug transport proteins. She's also recognized internationally as a passionate advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion, also known as EDI, in STEM. While she's recognized for her work in this field, she's also a sought-after speaker on the issue of EDI in STEM. She writes on this topic in a variety of outlets, including the Huffington Post, and she's a member of the board of directors of the Michael Garron Hospital, which is formerly TEGH, the Girls in STEM Executive Advisory Board, which is an initiative of First Robotics Canada, and she's a member of the International Women's Forum. Please join me in welcoming Dean Coe. Our next speaker is Dr. Eugenia Duodu. She's an award-winning chemist with a PhD in chemistry from the University of Toronto. Her research was focused on the development of detection tools for diseases such as cancer and Alzheimer's. She's now the CEO of Visions of Science. She leads a passionate team of talented colleagues whose focus is to provide engaging programs and opportunities for youth who are traditionally underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The goal of her organization is to provide long-lasting positive impact in communities through STEM engagement and in turn allow youth to unleash their potentials. Please welcome Dr. Duodu. And our next speaker, Eden Hennessey, is a data-driven artist and PhD candidate in social psychology at the University of Wilfrid Laurier. She's working with Dr. Mindy Foster, and her current research looks at the costs of confronting sexism in STEM. Her popular photo research exhibits, #DistractinglySexy and #DistractinglyHonest, are internationally recognized and present her dissertation work using a very unique and thought-provoking visual medium. She's also continued to be inspired by her work with the Laurier Center for Women in Science, which is a research center that builds a strong community for women in science through research, communication, and action. Please join me in welcoming Eden. All right, let's get it started.
Okay, I'm going to step down here because I like to walk around when I talk. This is the way I am, burn a few calories. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk to you this morning. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with my wonderful colleagues who I'm thrilled to have as my wonderful colleagues. And thank you to Susan Hopkinson, where are you? There you are, for getting the conversation started about bringing the networks of women in science and STEM closer together with the professional networks that are out there for women in business and industry. This is a gap that needs to be bridged. And I think that we will be stronger together. And I hope this is the first of many conversations about how we can support each other and how these kind of networking events, networking organizations can help to affect change for women in STEM across Canada. So, a little bit about me. As you can tell, I'm UK educated, UK born and educated. I came to Canada as an international graduate student. I'm an immigrant, and I'd add that, given the events of last week, I think it's important to note that immigrants are contributing to Canada and contribute to all sorts of various aspects of all sorts of things that go on in the country. I'm a very proud immigrant, and my adopted country has been very good to me. I came to Canada. It's important that that is represented as a Canadian value. And we hang on to that because it's very precious and easily lost if we don't pay attention and be always on guard. I came to Canada to do my graduate work at the University of Victoria. I then went off to the US to do a postdoctoral fellowship, which is kind of like a residency at the University of California in San Francisco. I lived there for a number of years, and I came back to University of Alberta on an Alberta Heritage Medical Foundation research fellowship, again a postdoctoral fellowship, and from Edmonton I came to Ontario as an assistant professor at York University. I'm a biomedical research scientist and an academic leader. I was recruited to Ryerson University to become the founding dean of the Faculty of Science when they split the Faculty of Engineering and Architecture and Science to two separate faculties. So I've been at Ryerson for about 4.5 years. I've given over 30 talks on EDI. Ooh, heavy breathing. 30 talks in. So I'm used to lecturing to 500 students, and I can do it without a mic, so it's a little bit overwhelming. So I've given a lot of talks on EDI in STEM in Canada over the last 12 months. Many more talks on this topic than I have on my own scientific research. And I'll explain a little bit why that is shortly. And I'd be described as a trailblazer for EDI in STEM in Canada. However, it's important to note that what I'm doing is affecting positive change and creating a better environment for everybody. So I don't consider it to be trailblazing, I consider it to be what we're all responsible for doing. A little bit more about me. I'm a normal person. I'm like all the rest of you. I have a very busy, full, active life. I am a hockey mum. I know every tiny arena from Cannington, where Eden comes from, to Trenton, Quinte West, Pickering, Ajax, Bowmanville, Clarington, and I live in Uxbridge. I have teenagers. My daughter dropped out of high school. She had 2 hospitalizations for mental health issues. She's now back on track, and she's at university. I have a research lab at the St. Michael's Hospital. There it is on the right. I often have a lab full of wonderful young women, not exclusively, but science is fascinating. Lots of young women love science, and I'm very fortunate to be able to mentor some of them. My family is back in the UK. They're my lovely sisters. My partner at the top there, who allows me and supports me and enables me to do all of this kind of work. And I say to young women in science, pick your partner carefully. I say this to young women everywhere, but particularly in science, pick your partner carefully. Because if you don't have somebody who supports you in your profession, your career path, it's a problem. And it's a distinct problem in science. So, I love my dogs. I used to drink scotch, and I have reflux disease, I can't drink scotch anymore. Advocate for STEM, I'm also a survivor, and I have recently become much more open about this. I was a single parent when my children became a single parent overnight when my children were 2 and 6, because my partner was removed from the house by the police. They're threatening to kill me. Yeah, so I'm like many other people out there. It happens to everybody, it happens to scientists. It happens to women in STEM. And as I was introduced, I've done a lot of writing on the topic and speaking, particularly in the last year, and there's material out there, you can find me. A year ago, I gave a TEDx talk in Toronto that you can find that talks a lot more about how we get to the situation of an underrepresentation of women in STEM. So why have I given so many talks in the last 12 months? Well, because being a scientist for the 10 years before 2015 was actually pretty calm. Science was not high on the priority list of the federal government. It was not particularly high on the list of the provincial governments. And to be a federal scientist was actually very challenging. To be an academic scientist in a university was okay, but really science and equity in science was not considered to be a priority. That all changed in 2015 when we, for the first time ever in Canada, had a position created at the federal level of a Minister in Science. We did not have that position before October 2015, which is kind of shocking when you think about it. Not only was that position created, it was filled by the Honourable Kirsty Duncan, who is a PhD level woman in science. She has a lived experience as a sort of medical geographer, and she has a mandate as part of her letter from the Prime Minister to address issues and inequities in gender and diversity in STEM. I've been fortunate to cross paths with Minister Duncan on a number of occasions, and she is absolutely committed and explicit about this being a priority, and she wants to see change. Many of us are working to help with that. So achieving equity, diversity, and inclusivity in Canada will require leadership from all levels. We now have a leadership at the federal level, and some of my work involves mobilizing at the provincial level, but particularly mobilizing communities and sectors and divisions, organizations who maybe perhaps didn't think that they had a role to play, like all of you. But all of you have a role to play, as do your sectors, as do your industries and business. And it's very important that this network be additionally connected and be strengthened, and that everybody be able to contribute. The importance of equity in STEM is well recognized in other parts of the world, and it's been well recognized by many of us in the fields for decades. But over the last year, it's become more explicitly articulated. So having equity and diversity in STEM professions, in all aspects of civil society, is really an economic imperative. So it's not just a nice thing to do, a good idea, it's actually essential for our economic future. Any business that relies on any kind of aspect of data needs people who are trained in the collection, analysis, interpretation, and delivery of data. And the importance of evidence-based policy decisions has never been greater if we look to the South in particular. The future is quite terrifying when also from Britain, when you look at Brexit, where the opinions of experts are dismissed, and you look to the South, where the contributions of scientists are dismissed on really serious, wicked problems like climate change and things like antibiotic resistance. So we need diversity in STEM. It's not just a nice thing to have, it's essential. And it's well understood. OECD, G20, major global organizations recognize that STEM is not only a human rights issue. We need to make sure everybody has the opportunity to contribute, bring all of their skills to the table, but it's also an economic development issue, regardless of the context. So it's encouraging to see that these kinds of conversations are now happening in Canada. We are late to the table. Why is diversity important? Lots of data, lots of evidence. We as scientists, we can collect this and we can demonstrate this. We can support it. Lots of data and evidence to say that diversity improves creativity and innovation. We've heard a lot about innovation. We hear a lot about innovation. You want innovation, you need diversity, and you need to action that. What does diversity mean? So, diversity makes us smarter, it makes us work harder, it makes us come up with more creative solutions. And business has recognized this for quite some time. A diverse organization will outthink and outperform a homogeneous organization every single time, from Procter & Gamble. Business knows this, and in fact, recently we have initiatives like this from CIBC, the diversity dividend. How can we actually improve the outputs of our organizations, our businesses, through increasing diversity? There are some studies that say a more diverse organization will add 15% to its bottom line. So it's not just a good idea, it's actually good business. And if it's good business and it creates better outcomes and better outputs, it's certainly also going to create better outputs for science, for STEM, for all of those activities that rely and require those particular skill sets. One of my sort of hopes to come out of these kinds of events then is to work towards an organization or a structure like they have in the UK, which is the WISE campaign. So the WISE campaign, I don't know if you probably can't read that, it's a bit small, it's a big campaign, it's a big organization, a not-for-profit, that enables and energizes people in business, industry, and education to increase the participation, contribution, and success of women in STEM. So this is an organization that brings together business and industry, Microsoft, Google, Thales, big banks, to actually contribute and develop programming and awards and activities to help develop that STEM pipeline, which, as you can see, is grey and relatively thick for boys and men, and skinnier for women. All of those companies and organizations want those highly trained individuals. So they're going to need to have a supply of STEM-trained, STEM-skilled individuals. So they have a vested interest in supporting initiatives that promote and retain and recruit women, girls and women in STEM. We don't have this in Canada. We need this. And I challenge you to go back to your organizations and talk to your CEOs and talk to your partners and talk to your colleagues and say, why don't we think about initiatives that we can bring to work with people like me, people who are interested in EDI and STEM, to actually improve the STEM pipeline, recruit girls, retain, promote women, to actually achieve what we're all seeking. I was fortunate enough to be in London last week when my wonderful colleague Hilary Lappin-Scott, who's on the right of that picture there, received an award for her work in promoting EDI and STEM in the UK. My other colleague on the left there is Mel Thompson from Australia, and I don't know if you can see in the background, there's a little tiny figure right here. That's actually Princess Anne. She's giving out the awards. You're not supposed to take pictures of her, that's why. So, and you can see that we were having a really good time because there's an awful lot of my models. I actually only noticed this after I had made my slides, and I thought, no, maybe that doesn't. But it's a wonderful organization, and it's a structure that brings the sectors together to effect change. And we hear a lot about how we need change. Here's Navdeep Bains, Minister Bains, talking in Waterloo a month ago, saying, we need women and STEM students and Indigenous students and entrepreneurs. Innovation needs to be inclusive. And I responded to that tweet saying, no kidding, we've been saying it for years, what are you going to do about it, basically? So what are we going to do about it? Well, you are all going to help solve this challenge. Because all of you are scientists. Every baby is born a natural scientist. Every little kid has a scientist inside them. We are all born natural scientists. We're all curious from birth. It's wired into us. But from the moment we're born, we're immersed in cultural conditioning. So, from the moment we're born, you're wrapped in a pink or a blue blanket, your values, your expectations, your responsibilities as a girl or a boy will start to become determined for you. And in my TEDx talk, there's a lot of detail about cultural conditioning and the unfairness and the disenfranchisement of girls as well as boys in terms of how we gender stereotype them, subtly, invisibly, subversively, without even knowing it. And kids know this isn't fair. This little girl was pointing to this, toys for boys. Why are they for boys? They're toys for kids. So one thing we can all do is recognize that it's not an issue about getting girls into STEM. Girls start off being in STEM. What we need to all be doing, and use the language appropriately, is to say girls need to stop being pushed out of STEM. We want to keep girls in STEM, get all of those things out of the way. So if you're a little girl who loves physics, you love building robots, you can do that for a whole career, and there's nothing that says ever to you, you don't belong, girls don't do that, that doesn't look like an engineer, that's not very girly, you're going to leave, go home and have babies. All of the things, the subtle messaging that comes across. It's not about fixing girls, it's not about fixing women. It's about changing the culture and the context. There is a new initiative in Silicon Valley that is seeking to hold men accountable for the behavior and the culture of that particular sector and that particular industry. They describe it in this article from a couple of weeks ago in Guardian as the anti-lean in strategy. I think that's a little unfair. I think we need to empower women and strengthen their confidence and build their confidence, because it is so worn down when you're working through a STEM career pathway. But at the same time, there's no amount of mentoring and no amount of workshops that are going to fix a culture that is toxic to the inclusion of women. So we have to fix the context and the culture. And again, there is a fabulous report that came out of the UK. It's called Through Both Eyes, the Case for Gender Lens in STEM. And it involves things like identifying and removing barriers and understanding things like implicit bias. And we need everybody to be involved in that. And that includes all of you, because you may be involved in hiring, you may be involved in committee work, you may be involved in opportunities to work with technical departments. All of these kinds of things contribute to a culture. And we know that this kind of work is going on for women in business, with women in other professions. We need it for women in STEM as well. And particularly academia, I describe as sometimes the last bastion of institutionalized misogyny. Academic science is very challenging. So we're working on it in academic science, but many women with STEM careers and STEM degrees will go out into many other kinds of professions. There are many activities that can be pursued. The thing I like about this particular report is that it describes who's responsible for which actions. And it also says, stop focusing on the girls to try and fix the girls, because it places a responsibility on the girls. We can have lots of STEM camps and science camps for girls, that's great. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not going to solve the problem if the culture into which those girls then enter, whether it be school or university or a workplace, has not shifted to be accepting and understanding that gender equity there's zero tolerance for not accepting gender equity. So you might have heard about things like the leaky pipeline. Well, girls drop out, girls leave. Well, that's true that girls do get pushed out, but it's not so much a leaky pipeline as a glass obstacle course. And I'm really trying to shift some of the thinking around how we describe girls who choose that they can't choose to leave because they can't take the sort of toxic culture anymore. It's not that they are failures, which is what the leaky pipeline sort of implies. It's actually that the obstacle course is pushing them off the pathway. We've all heard about the glass cliff, the glass ceiling. What is the glass obstacle course? So what else can we do? We can all, together, understand our own biases. We are all brought up in cultural conditioned environments. How many of you have taken the Harvard implicit bias test? Okay. So I said there was going to be homework. Okay, go home and Google Harvard implicit bias project, and then test your own implicit bias about things like science and women, color of skin, religion, and see where your own implicit biases are. And it's a self-awareness program. It's a self-awareness test. Nobody's going to know. You can do it in the privacy of your own home, but it's going to be very revealing about how we ourselves have implicit bias. And it's important that we all do that because women have as much implicit bias around STEM issues as men do. And a recent survey came out, if CVs are anonymized, women are 10 times more likely to be hired by tech companies. And that's because there's implicit bias against women by men and women who do the hiring. Australia is another place that's well ahead of us. They have some lovely materials that talk about busting myths. Girls aren't good at math. Actually, there's no evidence to suggest there's any cognitive difference whatsoever. Oops. Okay, so what I'm working towards is evidence-based policy change that addresses organizational, institutional, structural, and systemic barriers to full EDI in STEM. It's not about getting girls into STEM, it's about removing all of the barriers so that little girl who loves to work on robots when she's 7 years old can just see a pathway straight ahead. Nobody ever says, nobody ever implies. She doesn't see something on television that suggests, well, that's kind of weird. We can make those evidence-based policy changes on the basis of data that can be both quantitative and qualitative. Lots of data out there. And we can look to best practices, which is part of my work, is to look to international best practices and work with people who are way ahead of us in the UK and in Australia. Well, the UK is way ahead, Australia is following. We have a lot of work to do. And it's going to take leadership, it's going to take education, it's going to take everybody to be involved, it's going to take intentionality, being intentional and aware and have awareness, accountability, holding companies accountable for their gender diversity, holding companies accountable for their boards, holding people accountable for their behavior, asking men to hold other men accountable for sexist language. And that takes courage. What can you do? What can women in non-STEM do to support women in STEM? You can normalize STEM. So if you run into somebody who's a young woman in biomedical engineering, don't act surprised. Act celebrated. It's the unicorn syndrome. Oh, you must be so smart. I have a young woman who is completing a degree in medical physics. She's one of my students. And she is tired of being told, well, you must be really smart, that must be really hard, because it makes her feel like there's something slightly odd about her. And she couldn't actually identify why there was this discomfort about her sort of interaction with people until I explained that actually it's kind of the unicorn syndrome. There's something weird and exceptional about you. You're a little unreal. And that makes her feel like she doesn't belong. So if you meet somebody who is a nuclear physicist or a biomedical engineer, say to them, wow, that's really interesting. What are you working on? Because they're just people that love what they do. like somebody loves to play soccer, like a young girl might love to groom puppies. They're just things, they're doing what they love. We need to engage men. Men are incredibly important in affecting change. Fathers are more influential on daughters' career pathways in STEM disciplines than our role models. Fathers who do not hold traditional gender stereotypes around what men and women do are hugely influential and strongly positive. There's data in support of that. So, fathers can also be champions. You don't have to be a STEM professional. Every single one of you can be a champion. All of you started out as scientists when you were born. You can all champion the people around you, young women, mid-career women. You can say, yeah, you do what you love. Get those barriers out of the way. You can champion anybody. And I wouldn't be here doing this were it not for champions, not role models. Champions, people behind me saying, you can do this, you're worth it, you're capable, go and do it. I'll write a letter for you, you should do that. Don't worry about what that person said. Champions are very important. Encourage your business or industry to get involved in affecting change. How many people know who Ada Lovelace is? Oh man, we have a lot of work to do. Oh, okay, so please, this is another piece of homework. Go home and Google Ada Lovelace. How many of you are working in businesses or in your home life with a computer? Okay, come on, everybody put your hand up, right? Really? Okay, Ada Lovelace is the mother of computer programming. She is the person who first ever in the history of the world came up with the idea that you could write a program, a series of instructions that would tell a machine what to do. She came up with the idea that if a machine came up with a particular solution to a problem, if it was one thing, it should go do that. If it was another thing, it should go do that. So some people describe her as the discoverer of if. Ada Lovelace lived 200 years ago. Ada Lovelace's father was Lord Byron. How many of you heard of Lord Byron? Okay, Lord Byron had a daughter. His daughter was Ada Lovelace, and she is the mother of computer programming. It is a woman who founded the whole world of computer programming. There is an Ada Lovelace Day. It happens in October. Canada is completely delinquent in terms of contributing to this global celebration. It's a global celebration of Ada Lovelace, and we need to get on board. So you go back to your respective industries and sectors and professions and divisions or whatever, and in October of next year, you celebrate Ada Lovelace Day. You could do anything. You could have a coding and cocktails event. You can bring some public school kids in to learn an hour of code. You can just put up a poster and you can invite me to come give a talk. Okay? We need to recognize that women have been making major contributions to foundational contributions to STEM disciplines. And we need to celebrate that because that shows that women's contributions matter. Challenge stereotypes. Media is horribly complicit. Any of you in media or marketing, please take a look at your materials. I hate Disney. Disney is one of the significant problems when it comes to how little girls view themselves, and they're quite subversive about it. I'll give you a whole talk on that. But media is complicit. Be aware of that. Engage and change. Language is highly gendered. I give out to my hiring committees handouts that talk about implicit bias in language. Women are described in letters of reference quite differently from men. Women are described in terms that promote ideas around collaborative and team building, whereas an independent is kind of seen a little negatively. Whereas men, independent, assertive, women, outspoken. So I've been described over many years as being outspoken. And a few years ago I said, I've had enough of that. I'm not outspoken, I'm just spoken. I have a voice. Yeah. Language is gendered. Teach girls to be brave, not perfect. You would be astounded by the number of high-achieving young women I have in my classes, A+ students coming out of high school, who are mortified with self-doubt. They are high achievers. If they get anything less than an A in their courses, it's a disaster. Teach girls to be brave, not perfect. And there was a great slide from Reshna Sajani, who founded Girls Who Code in the US, who says exactly that. Really, really important. and teach girls and boys to challenge stereotypes. I have a son and a daughter. It's as important that I empower my daughter as it is that I teach my son to be respectful of women's contributions and equal contributions. And learn the lexicon of EDI. Imposter syndrome, rampant. How many people have experienced imposter syndrome? Stereotype threat, implicit bias. We need to understand the world, understand the field. And intersectionalities are really important. So young women from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, young men from certain ethnic backgrounds have expectations of their career pathways that don't always match their passions. No, I'm not going to be an engineer or a pharmacist. I just love environmental biology, but my community, my culture, my family don't think that that's an appropriate pathway for me. So intersectionality is not necessarily just gender. Women of colour can experience bias on the basis of colour much more than gender. We know that that happens in science, and it's a real challenge. And fundamentally, it's about all of us having success. So people often get anxious about, well, it's somehow disenfranchising men. No, it's not. It's actually going to be better for everybody. And you know, I always give the last word to Malala, because she said it, we cannot all succeed when half of us are held back. This is what science looks like at Ryerson. These are my young women in science. There are young men in science, and they're wonderful too. But I just put this slide together to show that this is what science looks like, it should look like. This is what diversity in science looks like, and I'm very proud to be working in an institution that supports all of that. Thank you. So I think we're just going to hold all the questions to the end and move right on to Eugenia.
Imogen did a really good job of just introducing the framework for what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm essentially just sharing my story of how I became a woman in STEM, and the journey to that, and the journey to what I'm doing right now. Just trying to change these slides. So central to my story is, I always say my story starts off with marriage between community and science, and you'll see it kind of arrives at that. But Imogen talked about champions. I grew up in a single parent home in an extremely marginalized community in Toronto. So I grew up in a low income community. The majority of the people that lived in my neighborhood, their household income was under $20,000 a year. So I was just very used to living a certain way. And I also, it was interesting because from a very young age, and I'll talk about this in my academic journey, I had the fortune of just being good at math. I was really good at math. And I always faced so much like, oh, well, isn't that lovely? Look at you being all good at math. And I always felt really like, oh my goodness, no, like, I don't know, I just get it. And I remember having to ask myself why I understood math so well. Like, is something wrong with me? Is there maybe, and I would tell people, I'm like, well, my mom, you know, she's kind of into accounting sometimes, so maybe that's why, maybe it's like a genetics thing. I'm not too sure what it is. But it's pretty cool, you know, I like it. And constantly being questioned about my academic journey was interesting. But I talk about community because the champions behind me is what really got me into really being confident in what I was doing. And as Imogen was alluding to, the barriers were insurmountable for me. I literally needed other people to come in and break them down for me. And I will get into that. But I say this because as much as I was academically driven, which I'll get into, I was so community driven growing up, and I still am. I was part of every youth council in my area you could imagine. I just really recognized the importance of helping other people, and it wasn't just about giving back because you needed to. I was receiving and giving at the same time because I was still in the situation financially at home, but I was recognizing that, okay, I know certain things, or I'm good in certain areas. Let me tutor certain kids in my community, because I think this is important. I don't think anyone shouldn't be empowered in what they're doing. Let me be on a youth council, because I'm pretty decent in organizing things. And it kind of snowballed into this area and aspect of who I was that really empowered me. And I was like, wow, I can actually create change in other people's lives. My work and my effort can transform someone else's life. It was really empowering and cool. And so I was a part of Raspberry Youth, Creating Global Citizens, which is an organization I co-founded in high school, which took youth from Toronto community housing and took them overseas in other contexts of working with other communities. And it wasn't a full exchange, but we got to kind of work with youth from other communities who were in the same situations as we were, but in a completely different context, and talk about that. And I worked with Toronto community housing for a really long time, part-time, and it was a growing passion of mine. And but in all of that, in the background, I had my academic journey. I had the things that I was really interested in school. I had always been an overachiever, and I suffered so much from imposter syndrome. It was crazy. And it was honestly the constant voices of, there is this unicorn of a woman in room 201 who's really good at physics and math and science, almost to the point where I had a very positive and early introduction to science, because my mom, I don't know, she just decided that she was going to empower me and tell me that I could do whatever I wanted, regardless of our current situation. And it wasn't like, I'm empowering you so you can kind of help us get out of our current situation, which is what a lot of my friends were facing. It was, you need to just give your all to what you're doing, because you never know what type of doors need to be open for you in the future. So I don't know, I never grew up knowing what I wanted to be. I just wanted to be all things at the moment that it was appropriate for me. And that's kind of, every teacher would ask me like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I'm not grown up yet, and I'm 5. Like, how am I supposed to know? Just let me play. So it was really interesting in that journey, but it was really the supportive environment that made the difference for me. The supportive environment in all of my questions and in all of my asks, and most importantly, in my desire to pursue science, contrary to the fact that I was so involved in the community. A lot of my teachers were of the assumption that I was just going to be doing community work, and in a very binary capacity. I was really active in mobilizing students in my high school, so a lot of teachers were like, law, some sort of humanities, do that. Even my guidance counselor would not let me take higher level physics because she was like, it's going to distract you from your community work. And I'm like, but that's my highest mark. So this is awkward. It's interesting, but once again, my summative community championed me, and they were like, you know what? You can do this, and you can do it all if you want to. So pursue your science and do really, really well at it, and that's what I did. But there was such a lack of opportunity and a lack of representation. There was no one who looked like me, who came from my area, that was doing what I did. I did not only get the unicorn syndrome from people like teachers and other people I encountered, I got it from the people that I lived with. People were like, what are you doing science for? Are you crazy? That's too hard. You know you can fail. Do you know where you live? You need to get out of this. You can do something a little easier and succeed and be okay. You don't have to prove anything here. It was crazy. So I grew up with this, I can do this, but I'm really scared. And I'm almost too scared. I think the tipping points were, for me, where when I was in grade 10, I got exposed to this biotechnology program in my high school. It was an anomaly. It's not even offered anymore. I called them last week. But one of my biology teachers, he was a PhD in biology, and he was like, I'm just gonna bring this awesome program to this high school. And I got to interact with science hands-on, and it just lifted off my textbook, and I'm like, oh man. And I was really good at lab work. And I was like, I really like this. I like the fact that I can create and invent and solve problems. This extended when I had other opportunities at U of T to do a summer mentorship program where I was able to kind of see what it was like to be a doctor, work in the hospital, do what I needed to do. But this opportunity was too serendipitous. And I'm gonna say this because I need to tell you how I found out about this summer mentorship program. I was doing my biology homework in one of my psych classes in high school, because we had anthropology, psychology, and sociology. So I'm doing my biology homework. My ASP teacher comes and says, put away your other work, do this work. The student teacher notices and comes to the back and she's like, oh, you like science? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, there's this program that my friend's running at U of T. Maybe I'll get you involved in it, but the deadline's tomorrow. And I'm like, what? So she stayed with me after school to complete a full application. We ran around, got teachers to do it for me. I got my friend to do it with me. And that program changed our life. Honestly, I met friends who are doctors now overseas here. I was able to interact with so many things, and that program catapulted me. And I always say I would not be where I am right now if I didn't do that program. But it was because a student teacher came to me in the back of the classroom and said, hey, there's this thing, you should be a part of it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, I ended up going to get my honors Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Biology. I'm so sorry I didn't put biology there. Chemistry and biology. And I also went on to do my PhD in chemistry, which I was able to successfully defend last year. Woo! That was awesome. And it was really cool being able to be at the forefront of research. Once again, I was given the age-old question, so what are you going to do with all of this? Like, where are you going? Are you going to be a professor? Are you going to be this? And I'm like, I don't know. I actually didn't know. And I didn't understand why it wasn't okay for me to just explore and learn about science and just do something without having to know what I was doing after. And I was just doing it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is going to be a platform for other things. I don't know. I haven't forgotten about my community. I haven't forgotten about my passion for community work. I just don't know how it's all going to come together. Then I was able to kind of bring it together by being involved in an organization called Visions of Science. And maybe like 2 months after I got involved, just because of how the transition happened, I was able and offered to take it over. And this happened in my PhD. So maybe 2011, the executive director at the time was like, oh, this organization is kind of slowing down because I'm transitioning. So, I mean, if you want to take it, you can. I'm like, oh, sure, yeah, it'll be like a little pet project. I've done this in high school. And it grew up into something completely different. And my whole thing is serendipitous opportunity is great, but intentional support is absolutely necessary. And that's the work that we're trying to do in Visions of Science. So our formal mandate is that we're a charitable organization that serves youth from low-income and marginalized communities and encourages their educational achievements and career aspirations in STEM fields and research. And just to give you a little insight into our strategy, the huge issue, and I think I've demonstrated that here today, is that there are barriers that youth from low-income communities face to even getting into STEM. And these barriers manifest themselves in the persistent underrepresentation and underachievement of youth from these areas in these fields. And I was an anomaly. Not only an anomaly in my area, but an anomaly across TCHC. Like I worked in TCHC, I worked in over 25 different communities over the course of my time there. I worked there for about 7 or 8 years. And every single time I heard over and over again, I would never do science. It's way too hard. And I'm always like, who told you that though? And where did that come from? So what we're trying to do is address these barriers directly, simply for now, by offering free, ongoing, fun, hands-on opportunities for youth to experience STEM in their own communities. Being from housing, and also understanding different nuances that happen when you're dealing with very diverse communities, is that sometimes something as simple as something not being available in the community is a barrier. Parents don't feel comfortable sending their kids off to a university that they've never interacted with or know about. So we'll bring the science to you. And that's what we try and do through various programs and initiatives. The impact has been great so far, and I think it's only because of champions. I work very closely with Imogen and the office at Ryerson University and other universities and institutions. This picture was actually taken at Ryerson at our year-end event last year. But being able to see that institutions are trying to provide an outlet to actually reach out to their communities is wildly important. And it's important for the communities to see that too. I remember we took our kids to the Science Center, and one actually approached me after and just gave me a little side hug, like one of those cute little side hugs. I don't know these kids that well anymore because of where I'm at in the organization. And I'm like, what was that for? Thank you. And he's like, thank you, because I know you had to hustle to get us here. And I appreciate it. And I'm like, you know the struggle is real. And I really appreciate the fact that now, in all of my wondering, like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I passionate about so many different things? So many people questioning, why are you even in science? Like, shouldn't you just be doing your community stuff? I remember I was sitting in a meeting with TCHC. During my PhD, I left TCHC maybe in the beginning of my PhD, and during my PhD, I was sitting in a meeting, and everyone was talking about different problems in communities and stuff, and I was just looking to the sky, I'm like, we need a couple more scientists here. Because I just feel like different voices at the table could change things. And I also looked at the communities and what was being offered to them, and honestly, I'll be candid to you, youth in Toronto community housing, youth in Peel community housing need more than basketball programs. We're not all going to the NBA. Honestly. And when I was growing up, that was my only option. Play basketball, paint a mural. We're better than that, I have to say. And numerous societal problems, I love this, I'm going to end with this quote, numerous societal problems are waiting to be solved. And I realize more and more that we need untapped and underestimated minds to be among those creating the solutions. These are our kids at Ryerson at the year-end event. And I hold true to that. I was an underestimated mind, and the fact that I could come out from where I came from and have a PhD is incredible. But it's not something that should be celebrated. I think it's tragic that I was the only one of my cohort that was able to do that. It's tragic. So we need to do better. Thank you for listening.
I'm so proud to have Eugenia as one of my friends. She just inspires me every time. And this is another wonderful, amazing young woman who is doing extraordinary work that is really unique and not like anything that I've ever come across in my rather long career now. So over to you, Eden.
Thank you. Mic is on. Thank you so much for having me. So excited. Thank you both for sharing your stories and for laying a lot of the groundwork. So for things that I feel have been covered, I think adequately, I might just kind of move past those. But really what I want to tell you about is something I've been working on for the last couple of years that I'm really excited about. And this is a new audience for me, and so I'm really pumped to see what you think about it. Yell things at me, leave me notes, find me online, write me emails. I'm all about expanding the network. So hi-oh. So I'm going to start with the woman we all know. Yeah, you know her. So in 1992, Barbie, Mattel's Barbie doll, told girls all over the world that math was hard. Math is tough, is actually what she said. And although that was removed from the shelves, similar things are still marketed today. Too pretty to do math. These t-shirts still get sold. My brother does my homework for me. And we don't have to look that far to find these messages that women are inconsistent with math and science. Even Nobel Prize laureates spread that message. So in 2014, a Nobel Prize laureate said that the trouble that he had with women in labs was that they fall in love with their male counterparts, and when you criticize them, they cry. And he faced backlash. But What I really was interested in was how women responded to this. So women responded by taking to Twitter and internet forums, and hashtag distractingly sexy was born. And this was a movement of women confronting sexism in STEM that they perceived to be unfair. Really, this struck a chord. And so I'll show you a few examples of how women acted in response to this. So this person's shoulder deep in a cow rectum. Very seductive. This person is talking about how distracting their outfit is. It's clearly very tongue-in-cheek. This person just did a liver transplant without crying or falling in love, which is miraculous. So eventually, Dr. Hunt did resign, and then women were blamed for his eventual resignation. So this really inspired me as someone. I'm a PhD student. I study sexism in science. So this was like the golden nugget for me, and I thought, I'm going to make my own thing about this. I'm going to create a show. I'm going to create a commentary, and I did. And it was called Distractingly Sexist. And it was covered by CBC. And for doing this, I also faced social consequences, and some of which I'm going to tell you about. Now, because I study sexism, and specifically the cost faced by women for confronting sexism in STEM, the trolls really picked on the wrong person. So I'll show you a few examples, not to give them too much power, but you can see a couple of comments here, like, huge non-story, oh, what about all the men in school where all the men allegedly face gender discrimination? So this is like, I talk about women's experiences that they're reporting to me directly, and these people are just commenting about, you don't know your own life. Like, everything you do is questioned. It's quite, as you can see, quite hostile. This makes me furious. Should we be apologizing? Accusations of sexism, but people personality disorders now. Hello. And then finally, so those are very hostile types of sex. And finally, objectification. You're hot. So really, thanks, trolls. You proved the point. And this is really in line with a theory of sexism called ambivalent sexism theory, which I would encourage everyone to go and look up. Ambivalent sexism theory is comprised of two factors. It's hostile sexism, which we know is the sort of Jim Crowe sexism, and then it's also benevolent. It's subjectively positive. Let me get that chair for you. Let me get that door for you. And what people don't realize is that the type of sexism that actually quite undermines women's confidence. And so it may not be surprising, given the cost faced by people like me, and women who are in the harder STEM fields as well, that there are not many women who populate these fields. So at this point, 70% STEM grads, Canadian university grads are women, but only 30% of those are in STEM. When you look at the workforce, it's just as bad. So women's STEM unemployment is greater than men's. When they are hired, they earn less, they have fewer full-time positions, they report greater sexual harassment than their male colleagues, and unequal access to resources, the list goes on. That's me with funny thought. Those aren't my real glasses. It's not. So these are images that I'm talking about, that I'm using in this, are actually from my first series of work, and I'm going to show you more about the second series. But so I primarily study sexism in STEM and what that looks like. So people all the time are like, that's a problem? Yes, it is a very well-documented problem. And in fact, many of these barriers and sexism, instances of sexism I talk about and reporting about in science are very analogous to those in business and economics, and I hear that quite a bit. And so we see things like professional and social exclusion from the old boys club, and you're devalued as a scholar. And my own research at Wilfrid Laurier University shows that female STEM students at my school are called weirdos and witches by their peers. So not surprisingly, confronting these attitudes is intimidating. It's Jennifer Moss, CEO of Plasticity Labs. And so confronters in any context are viewed negatively. Nobody likes a complainer, and they're seen as complainers, especially women. Now this happens among men and women. And the troubling part about this is that we need people to confront sexism because research also tells us that it works. If you confront someone, they're less likely to be sexist in the future. So we have, on the one hand, all of these serious costs, and on the other hand, an opportunity to really impact change. So you can see this sort of double bind. Now, all of this has led me to my dissertation research, which is called Confronting Sexism in Science, Tech, Engineering, and Math. And I'm trying to establish these directed. So what do other people do to female confronters of sexism in STEM? We don't know that. Does that differ from the experiences of other women? And there's a few reasons that I think that might be. And then also perceived social costs. So even if we're not talking about the treatment of other people, what are women in STEM perceiving themselves? Important to look at both of those things. And so a lot of people ask me, well, how do you get from statistics? Most of the time I focus on things like p-values and eta squareds, and a lot of stat. How do you take that and how do you turn it into an image that people can get who aren't necessarily in your field or don't have a background in this type of literature? So I'm going to walk you through that, a little bit of that. Oh, it looks like I've pressed something wrong there. Have I? Did I support? Thank you. You're really fast here. Great. Very responsive. So first I come up with anything. I come up with a research question. And that's generally something that I've looked into the literature and we don't know yet, like what are the costs of confronting sexism in science? Then I design a study to that effect. I conduct this research with women, with girls from all over the world at this point, and then I analyze my data using some fancy statistics and I have to interpret what those findings are. And then once I know what I've distilled down to like the bare minimum of this message, like how do I take this thing that's very nuanced and make it understandable and accessible to everyone? Because I think that this needs to be talked about outside of academia. This is why we're all here, to share stories so that I can tell you about what's going on in sort of this field, and I'm sure that you have similar stories in your own fields. So then I find the message and I think, who could capture this? Who is it that I know in my network who's told me a story like this? Then I need to visualize it, and I'm wearing a white coat today, purposefully, because a white coat is the easiest way to communicate that I'm talking about science. So we use very basic sort of symbols to let people know what we're talking about. And then I create, and that is the best part, and that is watching a woman step onto set. Imogen studies. Watching a woman step onto set, and my findings and their experiences come to life, and it happens magically. I think it's almost like I'm just tapping into a story that's needed to be told for a while. It's not that I'm doing anything exceptional, it's that these stories really need to be told. And so I want to walk you through a few of these now. So this is from my second series, #DistractinglyHonest. And so all of these slides that I'll present to you now have a story and references, academic references that back them up. And so these are a couple of women who work for the YWCA in Cambridge, and they do programs with young girls and women. And so yeah, we are honestly advocating at this point for young girls and women to engage in science. And these programs and initiatives have been around for a long time, and yet the NSF tells us that these numbers are really, really slow to change. So why might that be? And Imogen touched on this already. Maybe it's because early childhood socialization experiences, like playing with different toys, coming home in a different colored blanket, all of these things impact who we are, who we grow up to be. This is a PhD student's little girl, Ella. She's so happy that you're all looking at her face, right? She really is. She's glowing back from campus, I can feel it. And so we have gendered toys here really showing, we have things that teach little boys to be useful and utilitarian, right? And then we teach little girls to have tea and wear like fluffy heels. And so this is stuff that this is a really interesting exercise. I don't have kids, but I went and bought this stuff. It was just glaringly obvious. Anything to do with science has like a little fuzzy white-haired dude who's like Einstein, right? And that's what science is, and we all kind of grow up with this idea. Ella doesn't own any of those toys, actually. She's not sure mother won't let her have any big toys. So these experiences are honestly influential. But if we ignore that, we tend to believe and buy into this belief that things are honestly equal. And we know that that's not true. Data backs this up. We absolutely know that this isn't true. These experiences differ, and if we don't recognize it, we're really doing quite an injustice. This is Dawn and Jen. They're from York. Buddies. And so if we don't acknowledge this, we're doing a real disservice to women who are in these fields who are living this honestly challenging experience where they are expected to fulfill many, many, many roles. I hear horror stories of women who are doing PhDs and have to take a job at a call center during their PhDs so they get enough hours to qualify for EI so they can have a mat leave. So these are the experiences of the smartest women we have, and the barriers are so immense that it's shocking. It's really no wonder that people are pushed out at every turn. Amanda and I did our undergraduates together, and she's finishing her PhD with me, and here Oliver is just clinging right onto her, and she's shopping, she's got her computer, and I actually had more in here, and on set I said to her, "Can you look busier?" and I had to stop myself, like, I can't believe I said that. That's, there was a moment, and everyone kind of stopped and really recognized that she couldn't look good. She couldn't be busier. So this is honestly challenging. Oh, this is super superstar. Look at that in the room. So if we keep this up, if we keep this sort of these blinders on and we pretend that this isn't happening, we risk honestly imagining the situation through rose-colored glasses. So we tend to want to see things a certain way, but if we don't recognize what's actually going on, this isn't likely going to impact change. So collective action research, which is something I also study, how people act when they're angry enough. That research tells us that you need to be able to recognize a problem, that your group is deprived relative to another group before you'll do anything. So if we're just walking around with rose-colored glasses on and we're not seeing the situation accurately for what it is, we're not likely going to impact change and take action to change it. So when women do confront sexism in science, this comes from my research, it's ambiguous. It is honestly complicated. They face social costs, but then they're also looked at very ambiguously. So mostly my female participants say when she confronts, she's confident, she's strong, she's brave. Mostly my male participants say she's risky, she's bitchy, she's emotional. So we do see a gender interaction there. What's interesting though is that this ambivalence, I think is what this is this really captures sort of, these are the costs. You might risk, all of these things to be confident or strong or brave. And this is why I think we do need to teach people to be brave, as you both said, because yes, there are risks, but we know that it will work to reduce future bias. So it's very important. This is Helen Ramirez. She's my only non-STEM person in the series. That's why she's half wearing the coat. She said, I don't feel right wearing the coat. I'm only half a scientist. But I think it's really important, again, it's why we're reaching out to you to join forces, right? Because she's in women and gender studies. She's been studying this stuff for 30 years. She's like, yeah, I know. I've heard it, right? So, I think it's important to bring other experts into the conversation, too. So, yeah, it's honestly complicated. So, because of that, and I argue in my dissertation, because of the perceived and directed social costs of confronting sexism in science, women are dissuaded from honestly objecting. So instead, they opt for self-silencing strategies, like keeping things to themselves, complaining internally, or just venting with friends over martinis. And that's all fine, but honestly objecting is very important, because as I've said a number of times, we need that to happen. Otherwise, there's no record of anything wrong happening, right? So we have to first acknowledge this. And we need to have women who are honestly empowered to take action. This is Marissa Sterling. We need to have women to be honestly empowered to do this, because it will then influence other women to do this, and other men to do this. So if we can encourage other women and men to be confronting, this is the ideal situation, where it becomes the norm. And it needs to happen because women are honestly ingenious. I really believe this. I know this. I know many ingenious. Yes, you're nodding. Yes, they are. I know, they're incredible. This is one of my mentors, Dr. Eugenia Duodu, TED Fellow, quantum physicist, teleportation, really? She studies this. It's a thing, it's real. I know. Like Star Trek to Bridge. No. It's real, science. And so we're playing with light in this photo here. We're talking about visibility. It was very important to Eugenia to have her photo capture visibility. So we know that historically women in science have been virtually invisible, right? We're absent from the history books. It was Ada Lovelace. She only invented computer programming. Right? Who invented DNA? It wasn't Watson and Crick. It was Rosalind Franklin, and she never got any credit for that. Right? So this is really, I think it's so important to look at visibility. And we know, like we already threw Disney under the bus a little bit, but more on that. It's about representation. So research shows us that if we have girls who look at role models and mentors who are like them, they understand that they themselves can be that person one day. So representation matters, visibility matters. And so Shohini is the director of the Laurier Center for Women in Science, where I'm coming from to see you guys today. And so we, as a center, address these challenges that I've talked about. We're a center for women and men. And we have very few male members, but the ones that we have are very active. It's very important that they're advocates, that they're allies. We attract women into science and mathematical fields because we know that achieving gender equity is going to only strengthen science and tech. This is a huge industry, right? As we've said, it's really a cycle. I mean, I think we're all connected here. So I met someone last night at an exhibit who they develop, they're a tech company, and they develop contact lenses that have a glycometer in them. And then it tells a person what their blood sugar level is and sends a text to their phone. So they no longer have to prick their finger or have the embarrassing situation. They just, there's a perfect, marriage of science, technology, which eventually will become big bucks, right, when they sell those, when those go on the market. So really, we're all sort of influencing one another here, and that's why investing in women in STEM is such a smart investment. So really, as a group, we're interested in increasing the diversity of leaders and role models in academia, government, and industry, because we know how important it is to have women in power in all of those roles, so that young girls grow up knowing that that's not a unicorn, that's a scientist. That is what a scientist looks like. So what we can do, walking away from today, is we can take action. All of us are agents of change in this room. We can connect other women. I got connected to one. You did. Your friends. Seriously, this is how it works. Thanks, Imogen. But it really does. You have to have a strong network. Imogen has brought me into her network. Thank you. And now I'm rolling other people into mine, right? And that gives people a place to go, someone to talk to, someone who's been in a similar place that you've been in. You can support people who confront sexism. And you can stand up to colleagues or coworkers who just don't get it. And research shows us that various confrontation styles, in my research I use angered, which involves some swearing. Educational, which involves taking an informative approach. Humor, and just ignoring it. I need a control condition. But research shows, not just mine, but lots of confrontation research shows that confronting with education elicits the least backlash. So, if you're going to confront, do so safely, and use education. And finally, I'd like to leave you with a last piece. And it's based on a periodic table of elements, and I've called this piece the essential elements, which I believe women in science are the essential building blocks for STEM. I think that we need to be there, this foundation must be there in order for us to build. And I've used real elements here, and I've embedded a secret message. Can you decipher it? Thank you so much for listening.
That's actually the first time Eugenia has seen Eden's display and her work, because I just introduced them today. And Eugenia, that you were saying, yes, that tells your story, right? And the power of Eden's work is that women in science, women in STEM have been can be so isolated, can be so silenced, that I think that what your work, Eden, has done is given voice to so many stories and so many people like myself. So thank you very much. So I guess we have time for some questions. And I will moderate. No, I think we need some.
I need some glasses for the hot seat. At the front here, yes.
We have a mic coming.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Hi, so I was reading yesterday about women on boards and how the disclosure that was done about a year ago hasn't really done anything as far as increasing the number of women on boards. So you said it already, the progress is extremely slow. And so now the conversation is, do we actually institute quotas? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, should I take that one?
You have thoughts? You take?
So yes, any program, any policy change needs to have some element of accountability. So if there's no consequences for not following through on some initiative or some expectation, then it's very hard for that change to actually happen. So one of the problems with the increased quota on the increased participation on boards is that there's really not much of a consequence for not doing it. And that's the same with a lot of the programming that we talk about and I'm involved in, that there has to be accountability, and often it has to be some kind of financial accountability that will be an incentive to actually making a change. Quotas can be useful.
There is a lot of resistance and resentment to quotas, whether it be boards or whether it be hiring committees or whatever. There's a lot of backlash to that. Usually in the places where it's been implemented around STEM issues in other parts of the world, that backlash has eventually settled down, and the new numbers have become the new norm. But it takes a lot of courage for organizations or policymakers to go that route. What has worked better, I would say, is an example in Australia where there's an organization called Male Champions for Change, or Male Champions of Change, which is where the leading CEOs of some of the biggest companies in Australia, like Qantas, big mining corporations, who are almost all men, have come together and said, we realize that gender equity and equality is something that we need to address, and we will commit to making it happen. And they then become educated themselves about some of the issues, and they work with people with expertise in EDI to actually affect change. And they're intentional about it, and they hold their own organizations accountable. So if there's leadership from the top that says, you know, this is a priority, we're actually going to make it happen, then it kind of can filter down. So we don't have anything like Male Champions for Change in Canada, and I would like to see the president of CIBC, who talks about diversity dividend, I'd like to see him take the lead, create an organization modeled on the one in Australia, for instance. Australia is a very macho culture. You know, if they can do it in Australia, surely we can do it here. And they're very resource extraction heavy as a nation, resource revenue sources. So it's very comparable. But it really requires some really engaged, highly aware men to step up along with women to say, we need to do this, and we're going to make it happen, and here's how we're going to do it. So that's my preference in terms of an approach, because while quotas work, they can create some real challenges in terms of negative responses. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent presentations by all of you. This is a question for Eugenia. One of the things that you mentioned that really resonated with me is you mentioned in the community you grew up with, your options were playing basketball or creating murals. Obviously, these are programs to engage children. It really struck a chord with me, and I was wondering if there's anything you can suggest if people who wouldn't otherwise have a connection to this community can not help, but can, I guess, help and provide, whether it's treasures or talents, and get involved.
Yes, so I think what's been really interesting is being able to see this subtle rise of alternative programming that's not restrictive, especially educational programming, that targets those communities. So I think it's a matter of two things. It's not only about obviously there's a financial investment, funding is scarce, we face it every day as an organization. This imminent, it might fold, but we're pretty good right now. But kind of that sustainable support is important, but not only I'm going to give my money to this organization, but being invested in it beyond that. I know that we as an organization really try and create non-tokenized opportunities for people who do invest in us to come and see what's going on and to actually be part of it. Come to one of the communities that's down the street from you that you may have never walked into, and come and experience science with people from your community, with youth from your community. And the youth are empowered seeing other people come to where they are. And I think it works that way, but just being strategic in where to invest, but also not being afraid to take another step and saying I'd like to see, or I'd like to come, or I'd like to go. So I think for a lot of people in power, in that sense, it's about kind of really seeing where is my money going, and let me see my investment reflected in real people.
So I just to follow on from Eugenia, we are working with Visions of Science to look at innovative programming that, for instance, brings sports and science together.
Yep.
You know, so, or arts and science together. There are lots of different kinds of ways that you can provide opportunities that will help somebody with a passion in something to have an opportunity to pursue it. And it's also really important to remember that it's not necessarily about you know, financial need or waiving the fees. It can be about accessibility. Like Eugenia said, we've had some issues with running camps for students, but the cost of taking the bus from their location to the site is prohibitive. So providing tokens and providing opportunities for quiet spaces for students that need to go and pray at a particular time during the day, being really aware and really having the participation, or having the students themselves direct you in terms of what they need. Because there's lots of people that think, if we do this, it'll be good. But actually, you need to have those communities instruct you in terms of what they need. And we see this particularly with First Nations communities. If you have an opportunity to get Jennifer Flanagan, who is the CEO of Cultura, to come talk, you should retake that. So,
Hi, I'm Joanne Saleh. This is more a comment. I just really want to thank you, the panelists. I think your research and your thoughts today were just so impressive, and you're very important role models in STEM. I mean, I understand firsthand. I run a tutoring company in Ontario, and we get calls all the time from parents who have daughters who want to drop math. They want to drop their courses in science because they don't feel smart and they're not feeling successful. And I think that role models for women in science and technology and engineering and math is so important. So I thought this was just an amazing presentation today, and I want to thank Crowe Soberman and really everyone here, because I'm not alone. This is a full room today, and everyone obviously thinks this topic is really important, and we all have a role to play, and I just thought it was a great presentation, so thank you.
thank you very much.
I just want to thank you for,
my name's Deb Voorhees, and I want to thank you for the power of three today, because I learned several years ago from an executive at TELUS that when you have three women on a board, three women in an executive committee, three women in a group, all of a sudden you're not special, you're just part of the gang. And that played itself out when I did my MBA, and we had three women in our study group, and we were different than the others. So I would say, if you want to be brave, enlist two other women with you and go do what you need to do. And particularly now, I'm going to stand on my soapbox, but particularly now, we can't assume that we're regressing. Our rights are regressing, not progressing. And we all need to work on this.
Thank you. Yeah. Questions? Comments? Yes, one more.
I'd also like to compliment you on an excellent presentation. And I will say personally, I'm now a corporate lawyer, and that's been my career, but I did my undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. So this was 30 years ago. And this was a real, a bit of a flashback. And I realized as I was listening to you, you know, when I did my degree at Queen's 32 years ago, graduated 32 years ago, I had no female professors. There were no female grad students. And when I went to our orientation at Queen's for the engineering, and I would say I had a great time there. It's not a criticism of the university, but one of the things we did, one of the songs we learned as part of orientation was all about gang rape. So to put that in a little bit of context. But what I did want to say in terms of the power of networking is that one of the organizations I've been involved with from a charitable perspective for a long, long time now is the Canadian Women's Foundation. And the Girls Fund at Canadian Women's Foundation is supporting girls from the ages 9 to 13 because their research, among other things, their research has shown us this is the age at which girls need the most support. And one of the things we do is fund other organizations who are doing STEM work with girls. So on the networking front, because networking is important, if you guys haven't reached out to CWF, I encourage you to do so to see if there are some synergies. And I actually, my synergy and serendipity again, Margaret McCaffrey, who's here at the table, serendipity introduced me to CWF 25 years ago, so she's here today. But I also invited Laura Owen from CWF as my guest here today. So Laura's here. So if it makes so ladies, if you're looking for opportunities with Eugenia's group to support women in STEM and women in other things, Laura's here. You guys should talk because it's all about networking, and they are a fantastic group.
Is CWF the one that Paulette Senior has just taken over? Yes. Is that it? Yes. Okay, so I know Paulette, and yes, you should meet Paulette. Okay. She is amazing, and definitely the Power of the Network is really something that I really impress on young women in STEM, because it can be very isolating. It can be very lonely. And you know those songs about gang rape in engineering? We're still working with that culture, and we're still trying to shift that. And part of my job, my platform as an academic leader, is to say, that's going to stop when there is there's zero tolerance for that. And to make
years later, it still is going on?
Well, we have to get men to hold other men accountable. So, because if it's a women's issue, it gets marginalized. So it's really, we have to get everybody to be accountable. There is a he for she organization that comes out of the UN. It's men in support of women and all kinds of activities. It's a little bit kind of hashtag activism, but at least it's a starting point for engaging men in the conversation about, calling out sexist language. Another really good person to check out on YouTube or whatever is Dr. Brian Gainsler. He's an astrophysicist at the University of Toronto, and he has affected real change in his institute at U of T because he is really highly aware and he knows the issues. So getting male allies to hold other men accountable is really critical. It's about the culture and the context. So definitely CWF is a good organization. And Visions of Science is a great organization to support. We need women mentors in many instances, Lego League, tutoring opportunities. You don't have to be a scientist, you just have to be a champion. You just have to tell girls, particularly between the ages of 9 and 13, yeah, you don't have to be perfect. A B is just fine. You're passing math. You don't have to be a genius. I've had so many women come up to me to say, I was really good at something in STEM, and then somebody said, and I took another career. It can be one pivotal moment. I have a friend who was CEO of a very big company in Canada who was very, very good at math, and she was told by a professor, well, you're good at math, but you'll never be a mathematician. And it was that one moment that just shifted her path. So it's very, very typical that a single moment in time can be all it takes to knock somebody off a pathway, or alternatively, all of us are responsible for this. A single moment in time can just move a barrier out of the way, and all of a sudden the pathway is open. And that's really what we need to be doing intentionally. Anybody can do it. Grandparents, mothers, fathers, brothers, children. We can learn from the sort of lack of gender stereotype that we see in younger children. And we can all participate in that. We will all be better for it. Okay. So maybe that's a good time to thank you very, very much for this.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Coe, and I work as a senior manager at Crowe Soberman in the Audit and Advisory Group. It's the exciting part of the morning where we get to draw for our prizes. So if you would like to enter, you have to be in the room to win, and you haven't dropped your business card off in this bowl. Want to put up your hand? Anyone still need to put a card in the bowl? Okay, we'll run around and pass it one final time. And while we're doing that, and just to mention again our prizes, very good prizes, a $200 gift card to the Chase, I'm free if anyone needs a dinner date. And also a $250 gift certificate to Cadillac Fairview. All right, so we want to give a special thank you to our panelists this morning, Dean Imogen Coe, Dr. Eugenia Duodu, and Eden Hennessey. Thank you so much for taking the time, obviously from your very busy schedules, to be here today. We're so grateful for your contributions to the conversation and sharing your own perspective, intelligent and compelling thoughts about women in STEM. So as a gesture of gratitude to the panelists who are here this morning, and to our moderator, of course, Crowe Soberman has donated to causes that are important and meaningful to each of them. So in honor of Dean Coe's participation, we'll be donating to the Barbara Schleifer Commemorative Clinic. And that's a specialized clinic for women who are experiencing violence. It was established in memory of Barbara Schleifer, a young lawyer whose life was cut short by violence on the night of her call to the bar of Ontario on April 11th, 1980. In her memory, the clinic is a multidisciplinary frontline service provider. It assists more than 4,000 women a year to build lives free from violence. And that's done through counseling, legal representation, and language interpretation. Since it was founded in 1985, the clinic has assisted more than 55,000 women. So that's pretty amazing. As a thank you to Dr. Duodu, we will donate to Visions of Science. So as we've already heard about today, it's a charitable organization that aims to advance the educational achievements and career aspirations of youth from low-income and marginalized communities. And as a gesture of gratitude to Eden, we will be making a donation to the Chippewa Solidarity Fund, and that's an organization to support the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation in efforts to see their treaty and constitutional rights upheld. So, exciting part of the morning. So if your name is drawn, just stand up so we can identify who you are. And Tracy over here, she will run over and give you your prize. So, first person, not biased, I'm picking over here. Robin Wilson. Congratulations. Oh, she left? Oh, that's too bad. Oh, there's still a chance for dinner. Okay. Next person is Lorraine Leduc. And she's here. Okay, don't tell Robin. All right. And the last prize goes to Tiffany Harding. Perfect, so congratulations. Thanks again for joining us today. And as a small token for everyone, looks like there's some extras. There's chocolates on the tables, so feel free to take one for yourself, for a snack for later. And thank you so much for coming this